And muchas gracias, Agapito. Your presentation was amazing, and I'm sure, like everybody else, your brain is buzzing with ideas and ways that you can apply vision and other applications of AI, the things that Agapito was talking about in your organization and your projects. And hopefully what I can do is kind of build on that idea as to how you can get some of your ideas into production and find ways to utilize EA, artificial intelligence, in your organizations to implement and get it to actually do some pretty amazing things. So this QR code on the screen goes to my LinkedIn, so please connect with me there. Would love to hear from you, connect with you. I spent most of my career in Estados Unidos, but also in Ireland, and now I live out in Cañas in Panama. So if you're out in the Cañas area or coming out to Playa de Now, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to meet and talk about AI over drinks, perhaps. So I am an experienced project manager. I've built a few pre-LLM AI projects for businesses in call centers and government services, other industries. Even before ChatGPT, some really big impacts with AI for those organizations. But what I wanted to talk about today is how there are only, according to one survey, there's only 1 in 20 projects are actually getting to production. 1 in 20 AI projects are getting to production. So I'm very interested in identifying best practices and common features of AI projects that are successful in organizations while we're still in this very, very early phase of AI. In this presentation, I want to identify the reasons AI initiatives fail in development, why they fail in production, how developers and project and product managers need to approach AI initiatives differently in order to accommodate all of these changes. And then I want to introduce you to some of the tenets of the framework I'm building to organize all of these best practices going forward. I'm very interested to hear your feedback so that the system will ultimately have a lot of developer feedback before publishing, and I'll be here for your questions. So please have them in mind as you go. So this is a screenshot of a portion of the MIT Sloan white paper that went viral earlier this year. It was a 6-month study of 300 or more AI implementations across enterprises. There's some flaws in the methodology, but I would say that the anecdotal evidence and talking to organizations that I've worked with in the past and the present, this is largely true. So looking at this, what it's saying is that as of late 2024 and early 2025, when these surveys were being conducted, so 80% of organizations were looking into using LLMs like ChatGPT and Claude in their organizations. Only 60%, which is actually higher than I would have thought, were thinking about task-specific generative AI or AI, agentic AI, other sort of more edge AI initiatives. Only 50% of organizations had piloted using ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, these general AMs inside organizations. 20% were using agentic AI or something similar. Successfully, the general purpose LLMs, 40% of organizations felt like they were successful in putting LLM in their workflows, while only 5% were successful in these more task-specific generative AI projects. A lot of scared businesses out there. They're already skeptical of adopting AI, but nonetheless, so what's the problem? And the problem is sometimes it's RAG, sometimes it's memory, Sometimes it's complexity with the projects they're trying to do. Sometimes it's change management. Sometimes it's just AI without a purpose. Like the executive team is like, we need AI, but they haven't identified what their actual use case is. Sometimes it's outside expectations and bad data. But I'm seeing another problem, and it's not the developer's fault. It's actually mine. I'm the project manager, and I think project managers are a real issue in getting these AI initiatives into production. That's kind of what I want to talk about here. So if we look at the way things have been done inside organizations, generally what happens is a project manager will spend weeks, maybe even months doing stakeholder analysis, stakeholder interviews, lots and lots of documentation and workflow mapping. And yeah, they get that all together so that they can give to the developer team a an almost finished idea of what the project should be. I'd love to see in the chat, how many of you guys are finding now with vibe coding that is changing things for developers and for your teams. I'd love to hear if it is changing things because the reason that project managers often spent so much time doing all that documentation was that so that by the time it got to the developer team, you guys had exactly what you needed in order to build what the organization needed the first time, maybe iterate just a little bit, but your first pass out of it, first pass at a project would be as good as it could possibly be. And now, and that meant that developers were the bottleneck. You guys would have a huge backlog of these projects just waiting to get into production because it took so long to code. I'm curious whether vibe coding and being able to spin up these things in a few hours instead of a few weeks, at least get it close to production ready, has changed things. And if so, if it had, please let me know. If it hasn't yet, I would hazard to guess that in the very, very near future, it will change the speed of production. Um, and so, yeah, what that now would means either currently or soon will mean is that the bottleneck is no longer the developer team. The bottleneck is now project management. It's now product management. Um, so I've spent 6 months figuring out how to change the project manager role and the product manager role to stop being a blocker, to stop being the bottleneck inside the production. And so, yeah, hopefully this is going to kind of explain some of the things that I've found and some of the things that I think some of the things that I think need to change and need to get better. So yeah, project development, it used to be that there would be, well, I should say project development, your ability to create lots and lots of experiments now is sped up immensely, but project planning is the bottleneck. It keeps things from actually getting into production, which is the opposite of the way things used to be. So there are four incompatibilities, and this speed mismatch is just one of them. So I wanted to talk about each of these four. There's the speed mismatch. There is just with AI non-determinism, which resists testing. What I mean by that is that your SaaS initiatives, your software as a service initiatives, are deterministic generally. If you have input X, there's an expectation that you would get output Y. But as things work now with AI, the input of A could provide an output of B, C, D, E, or F, and maybe sometimes L. It's just you have all sorts of dynamic outputs that can come out of an AI. And so therefore that changes things in the way that things need to be monitored. I'll talk about that in a minute. Democratization. So this isn't happening very often now, but I think it will soon as vibe coding becomes more ubiquitous, as no code tools like Make, Zapier, and Langflow and some of these others become more popular, your subject matter experts, your SMEs in your organizations, they're going to start doing some development work, the stuff that they couldn't have done before. And then there's the fourth incompatibility is that there's just no finish line with AI systems. So let's go through each of these one by one. So the speed mismatch, I've talked about this a little bit, but here's an example of what I'm talking about. So let's say, for example, in your organization, your marketing team wants a Q&A bot, real simple. In traditional project management, it would take 3 to 8 weeks gathering requirements. I might spend another 2 weeks prioritizing the features. I'm going to write up this 40-page specification document. And yeah, and then it would eventually that just goes into your backlog of things that you need to develop. But now, because of vibe coding and the ability to spin up projects very, very quickly, the developer can have a working prototype in 2 days. And you're just brain dumping ideas into Claude Code while you're running on a treadmill. So by the time I approve the spec, the prototype has been tested by 15 users and it's been iterated 3 times. The spec was irrelevant before I finished writing it. This speed mismatch, which is planning velocity, it just hasn't kept pace and isn't keeping pace with development velocity. So Sam Altman of OpenAI, he says that feedback is more important than foresight. His quote is ship chaos, observe order, and scale the mutation. As some of you might have been developing with ChatGPT to get code, and maybe you tried 5.0 in its early days, and you might have seen in firsthand that yeah, the results just weren't good. It was chaos. But what OpenAI is generally doing is they'll release something. It's not necessarily perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I know just from talking to somebody who was at a OpenAI hackathon. It was done by OpenAI at their offices like the weekend after they released 5.0. And the reports were that it was just a disaster. Nothing could get to production because the results that were coming out of it were so incredibly bad. Now, we don't have the same amount of freedom to release bad code as OpenAI does because people are willing to be patient with it. But nonetheless, their approach to getting feedback rather than trying to predict and get it right when they release it, I think is really an important model that we may want to consider. So the speed mismatch, and I've talked a lot about that, so I'll move on. But if you have any questions about the speed mismatch, please put it in the chat and we'll get to it ASAP. So incompatibility number 2 is democratization. So what we saw in the early days of, not even the early days, what we've seen up till now, I should say, with ChatGPT, Claude, some of these other LLMs that, yeah, so organizations are trying to, only 40% of them, according to this MIT survey, were purchasing ChatGPT for their teams, implementing LLMs in the workflows for their teams, trying to get their team members to use it. Meanwhile, nearly everybody in the team was using it anyway. It's just that the organization didn't know. So if that's happening now, just wait until your team members in your organization on the admin side, just wait until they're using Replit and Claude Code and Make and Zapier. It's potential chaos. So this democratization is a real potential issue if it's not happening in your organization already. Your subject matter experts, they can build without you. Your company's Excel wizard just discovered Replit. She built an internal tool, no ticket, no spec, no governance. There's 47 people on her team now depend on it. It's in production. Now you as a developer, you're inheriting support for something you never approved, you never had a hand in developing. It can turn into a real problem. The tools are so accessible now that traditional gatekeeping doesn't work. Your gatekeeping used to be able to say, just to know that nobody on the admin side, nobody on the accounting team knows Python. So therefore, your job is safe, and your ability to prevent this democratization that's happening in your organization is super safe. But those walls are coming down, and people can spin up some stuff. So that's a mismatch. Um, the third incompatibility is non-determinism. Uh, so you can't write traditional acceptance criteria for emergent behavior, and this is going to be more on the PMs, but it happens for the developer teams as well. So, for example, your RAG system might pass all the unit tests, the retrieval works, the embeddings are correct, the response generation functions properly, but then a user asks about parental leave in Germany, and it confidently cites the wrong policy. So what does answers questions accurately, is the criteria. What does that even mean when the system is probabilistic? Uh, Traditional definitions of done, they just become meaningless. You can't test your way to correctness. You have to monitor and improve over time. And last incompatibility is there's no finish line. And I'll just hit this quickly so I don't run too far behind. But your AI systems, they just never finish. So it used to be with SaaS projects. As soon as you shipped it to production, you probably had a hand in training the team on how to use it, and then you let it go. It's gone. It's in production, done. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You may have to do some maintenance on it every once in a while. Every once in a while, somebody raises a ticket for it, but it's gone. Well, now the way I look at it, it's almost like every time you put out an AI project, it's like you're a rock star and you've just written a song, and now you're going to have to play it on stage for the years to come. If you're Motorhead, this is your ace of spades. So yeah, just know that when you are now putting your AI initiatives into production, you are going to have a hand in it in order to make sure that it remains useful. It doesn't drift. It doesn't. Um, um, yeah, you can retrain it when it needs to. You can expand it on it, make it, even perhaps cross-departmental when it needs to. So, yeah, that no finish line with your AI initiatives. So just if you haven't put an AI initiative uh, into production inside your organization yet, if you're just now perhaps being asked by your leadership to consider building an AI in your organization, you're gonna want to have you're probably going to have all four of these incompatibilities, but as a developer, you can do different things to try to minimize these incompatibilities and maybe even potentially eliminate them so that your AI initiative actually has a really good chance to get into production, remain in production, and be really useful for your organization. And you can be, yeah, you can be celebrated for doing it. So with the speed mismatch, so you should utilize the speed mismatch for experimentation and multiple prototypes. Take advantage of vibe coding and your ability to spin up a lot of different things and introduce those to your product or project manager as much as you can. Um, what I mean by that is traditionally you are being asked to create one uh, product that is going to satisfy the project or product manager's requirements as much as possible. Consider spinning up three, four, maybe even five different tools or products that will satisfy as many of those requirements as possible, just so that you can have a better chance at tackling problems that perhaps weren't even communicated to you that you're going to identify when you're brainstorming with your LLM, or if you are able to, through just your knowledge of the organization, and the problems that the organization is asking you to solve, feel free to spin up lots and lots of different prototypes. Second thing is you want to introduce the idea, the concept of dynamic results to the project manager early on so they can adjust their deterministic expectations. Again, they're expecting that when they input X, your system is going to output Y, and you are going to need to make sure that they understand early on that that is not how AI works. Third thing is, in order to prevent this democratization of initiatives inside your organization from becoming really problematic, you want to keep sensitive data, incoming and outgoing, away from this democratized development. So they can feel free to let them develop what they do, because there's not much you can do. The shadow development is going to happen, but just make sure that they're not utilizing good real data that will potentially cause problems. And then the last thing regarding no finish line for AI systems, make your evals a priority post-launch. If possible, give your subject matter experts access to view and comment on the results that the AI is putting out. We need to get the organization used to being the ones who are constantly overseeing these AI initiatives, rather than and expecting, I should say, that the results of these AI products are going to evolve over time as new LLMs become available and things progress. Any of these things are going to change and potentially break in significant ways how the system works. So you need to have those subject matter experts playing with and monitoring what it is that is coming out, and making sure that they know they need to communicate with you what needs to be done in order to get him in line and continue making great results that are coming out of the AI. And your PM can facilitate those communications. So what else can you control? So these four things are super important. Prototype fast, give it purpose, show the uncertainty to your PMs very early on, protect your data from day one, make your evals visible. But I've got a few other things that I think are going to be very, very helpful. And it comes from this chart here, which also comes from this MIT Sloan report that went out. Why are the generative AI pilots failing? And so things that you can do in your product design in order to minimize these common reasons for AI initiatives failing in the organization. Usually this can happen once it's gone into production. So these are things you can do while you're producing, so that once it does go into production, it will continue to succeed. Number one, my favorite is make your AI ambient. And what that means is you want the AI to operate without needing a human action to trigger the AI. An example of this. So if you were tasked with creating a system that will make it easier for your executives, for example, to answer emails, and this is a common use case. If you were to create your system so that they read their email and then they click a button, and then it then creates a response that they can edit, well, that would not be ambient. What that is it's uh, 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 requesting of the user to do something to trigger the system. And that is it's going to impede the ability for that particular product to actually succeed in production, because ultimately your executives probably are not going to use that button. They're going to continue to use the email the same way they always have, and your AI system will fail. However, if your AI system is reading all of their emails, it's filtering what emails should get a response, and it is drafting an email automatically. And those drafts are now sitting in a drafts folder. Now you've done something ambient for your organization that will, and your executives. Now, instead of going to their inbox and then clicking a button, now they have to just get used to the idea of maybe even starting with their drafts folder and making that their default view when they open their email. And now they're just reading their drafts rather than reading the email that they received at all, just to make sure that their response is good before it sends. But that's an example of ambient AI. So with all of your AI initiatives, think of a way to design it so that the trigger is not a human action to start it. Second one is checking to see if your AI can fit into the current workflows. With SaaS initiatives, software as a service initiatives, generally what we're being tasked to do as developers and PMs is to replace a current workflow with another workflow. And in my opinion, that's one of the reasons that change management is really, really hard with SaaS initiatives. And with AI initiatives, it makes it nearly impossible. Instead, try to take those current workflows that everybody is already using and used to, and embed AI into that workflow. So a way that might look like, for example, might be that somebody in the mailroom receives a paper invoice, they scan the invoice, they email the invoice to accounts payable, and accounts payable may schedule it for payment. That would be an example of a workflow. So if instead the your office secretary or front desk receives the invoice in paper invoice in the mail, they scan it. Instead of going to accounts payable, it goes directly into a system that reads it and enters it into the accounting system automatically. Well, now all the AP needs to do is review it before payment. It fits within everybody's current workflow. It's not introducing a totally new workflow. And then the last thing is just making sure that the output from the AI is as reliable as possible. So setting up using context engineering and using RAG ways so that the output from your AI will at least fall within certain parameters. There are always going to be edge cases, but if you can make sure that reliably it is going to give a good output, you're good to go. And I apologize. I'm going very long compared to what I anticipated. So I'm going to probably skip over a bit, and I apologize for that. I talked a lot faster, I think, when I have demoed this one before. So what if we don't change? So easily, you're going to do excellent work, and it's going to get stuck. And traditional approval process is just not going to move it along. And you're going to be doing duplicate efforts where different parts of your organization are going to be asking for very, very similar types of AI initiatives, and you're going to be doing the same work over and over again. If your organization has competitors who figured this out, they're going to start pulling ahead, and their system's going to be learning and improving while yours remains static. And that is going to create a moat for those businesses, for your competition, that your organization is going to have a really, really hard time overcoming. So yeah, and then regarding the shadow development, the person in marketing who ignored the processes and built this, vibe coded or no coded tool anyway, they're going to get promoted, and the organization's going to think that they're a coder now, right? And now you're going to have huge security issues. They're only going to be thinking about their department, so all those interdepartmental benefits are going to get lost. Yeah, and meanwhile, your project manager is just still documenting these 40-page documents of how these things need to be done, the business case templates, and yeah, yeah. So yeah, it totally your organization needs to evolve, needs to change. So I'm building what I call the AI success framework, the AI initiative success framework. It's built on these 41 so far characteristics of AI initiatives, and I'm going to move really fast through this. Like I think there's three tiers of these core characteristics. There's the first one are your core characteristics. These are requirements, right? These are foundational characteristics. They're just non-negotiable. Then there's enabling characteristics. These are the ones that help your AI initiative scale. And then the last one, last here is the advanced characteristics. This is how you take your AI initiative from good to great. I'm not going to go through these, but I am going to talk about the foundational ones. These are just requirements. Please write these down. Make sure when you are doing even your very, very first AI initiative inside your organization that you've covered all three of these. They are that you define uh, some statistical success criteria up front. You need to find a way so that there's a threshold in which the AI initiative proves that it is good enough to get into production. And this needs to be done collaboratively with your PM. The reason that you're doing this is that, uh, again, your system is dynamic and not deterministic. If you are not able to define this for your initiative early on, then your PM and your executives who are going to approve this production, they're going to expect 100%, because that's the way it's been with these SaaS initiatives. You're not ever going to get 100% as long as you're using AI agents and agentic AI or even LLMs in the workflow. You need to make sure that there is a threshold of accuracy of which everybody is willing to accept. And this is going to vary depending on all of those things, just how, whether it's customer facing or internal facing. Does it affect the company financially or does it not? Does it involve things like potential HIPAA violations or GDPR violations or other regulatory governance that is just a non-negotiable? Well, there's still, that means a higher threshold needs to get set, but it can't be 100%. So make sure that's defined. Second one is your data architecture. It needs to actually work. I am a proponent of clean data over lots of data. If your system requires lots and lots and lots of data, make sure that you have a number of different AI agents, and each one is pulling from a very clean and very specific set from that big data set. You never want a single AI agent to be utilizing a huge data set, no matter how clean you may think that data set is, because that is going to cause the hallucinations. Excuse me, that is going to that's where things are going to get messed up. So the cleaner the data that each agent is looking at, the more focused it is, the better the chance that the the system will work. And the third is monitoring from day one. You can't fix what you can't see. So think about, and this is really crucial. In fact, why don't I skip right to it, because I think that this is uh, uh, certainly important. Yeah, what changes for you? Let's put it right here. Self-monitoring is baked in. So the monitoring of your AI initiative is continuous, collaborative responsibility. It's not a post-deployment afterthought, right? So usually you're building, building, building. Okay, good. Go take it into production. And then you're being asked to, or somebody's being asked to build a dashboard to check on it. Maybe. Sometimes that doesn't even happen. So you need to be thinking about monitoring right from the very beginning of building your AI initiative. How is it that your SMEs, your subject matter experts inside the organization, are going to be able to provide feedback on the system over time? How is the project manager going to be able to or watch over this? What alerts do you need to build when a threshold is being is not no longer being met because of drift, because of somebody just reorganized the SharePoint and now that your perfect rag is gone, haywire. So if you're not watching it, it's already changing. So yeah, developers, you have to track the technical health. So build some monitoring for yourself so you don't have to do it manually on a daily or weekly basis. Looking at things like token cost, what you can tell from hallucination rate, latency, the SMEs, they need to be tracking what its output is, especially if it's customer facing, making sure that the system is giving the right advice. Your PMs need to make sure that it's still being used in adoption, tracking things like ROI, the adoption curve, and then your compliance and security teams. They must be tracking governance and trust. So everybody's got a hand in this. And if you can build that monitoring right from the beginning, that is going to be super, super helpful. Your project managers are almost definitely still thinking about your initiatives the way they always have. And so you need to be watching out for how it is that they um, uh, how they're treating the project and how their behavior and how their way of traditionally or looking at your AI initiative through the lens of a SaaS initiative, how that's going to impede your ability to get your AI initiative into production. So just look out for the warning signs. Find ways to escalate within your team, your IT team, or even with the PM themselves as to why these early warning signs are potential roadblocks to your AI initiative getting into production. The project manager role completely changes. Yeah, again, how to think about done. Yeah, that monitoring is it. Like the traditional software has a finish line. You deploy, you train the users, you close the ticket, you move on to your next initiative. And that's just not how it needs to work now. Now every time you put an AI initiative into production, you need to be monitoring it and making sure that it is continuing to uh, 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 produce the way it needs to produce. Have some milestones, right? The ones are, the ones I've got so far are the pilot validates the hypothesis. You hit those statistical goals that you defined up front. Then milestone two, you got some production deployment with real users, real data. Milestone three is just sustained value over months. You're proving ROI and allowing some scope creep to occur, which is your project and product managers are allergic to scope creep. But with AI, you introduce new data to your system. Scope creep can be a very, very powerful and good thing for your AI initiative. So you want to track that. So yeah, I have a whole framework that I'm building that I think is going to tackle as much of this as possible so that if you were to implement it inside an organization, it gives the AI initiative not only a better chance to get to production, but a much, much better chance to survive after it's gotten into production. But what I really am hoping is that before I publish this framework, is that I get a lot of feedback from people like you inside organizations who are doing the actual AI development to hear what are the problems that you're having in getting your AI initiatives into production. What are the things that are causing those in AI initiatives to get abandoned by the organization after they're in production? So please reach out to me. And if you have some comments and that sort of thing here, if we have time, hopefully, guys, do we have time for Q&A? I'm seeing that we're over time, but I'll leave it to you to let me know if we have time for questions and all that. But I skipped through a lot, but hopefully I'm good to go there. What do you think, guys?